Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Mathieu Guider, who's a professor of Islamic studies, the author of numerous books. The latest ones were just published in French simultaneously, or nearly simultaneously, I should say. The first one is called The Islamist Spring, Democracy and Sharia, and the other is more pedagogical. It's an atlas of Arab countries from revolutions to democracy. But I want to ask you first about the title of the first book. The Islamist Spring, and you quote Napoleon at the onset of the book, where he says, in revolutions there are two kinds of people, those who do them and those who profit from them.
Yes, that's exactly what summarizes this book. I try to explain how we went through the Arab Spring and how we are today in an Islamist Spring, since the revolutions in all these countries were not initiated by Islamists, were not conducted by Islamists, and however, they all of them come back to Islamists in the governments or to the rise of the Islamist trends almost everywhere. In the Maghreb, in North Africa, in the Mashriq, in Egypt, in different countries. It's a new trend, a new major trend, which is now dominating the Arab scene and the Islamist scene in this part of the world.
I do notice, though, that you do not use the word Islamist winter, as some commentators in the West would, but you talk about spring, which generally is synonymous with hope, future, nice things to come.
Yes, but this doesn't mean that I agree with the Islamist agenda or that I...
But that you're optimistic,
support.
maybe.
Yeah, but I'm optimistic about this because all these countries were under dictatorships, all of them, for centuries, for years, for decades ago. And in their perception, there is hope. They voted for these forces and they moved to the Islamist agenda, to the Islamist parties, because they think that these parties will give them more democracy, more freedom. They will give them more opportunities, that the economy will be better with these parties. So there is hope in these countries about these, and they wanted to change totally from what was happening, what was going on before. So that's why it's about a spring. It's an Islamist spring from the point of view of the people, the Arab people who are living this spring.
Okay, I want to get more specific. Let's go to ground zero, if I may say, of the Arab/Islamist Spring, Tunisia. We've seen that it began there, and we're seeing some rather violent, if not physically, at least verbally, face-off between the so-called modernist liberals and the Islamists, with some demonstration in the streets, in universities. How would you describe the situation there, and what does it portend for the rest of the region?
Tunisia has been, since the beginning, a laboratory. Has been a laboratory of what we can call today, what the new elected president of Tunisia, Monsef Marzouki, called an Islamist democracy. An Islamist democracy for him, and I'm quoting him, is like the Christian democracies in the Christian countries at the end of the 19th century. For him, is the same trend which is happening now, means forces, religious forces, who are converting themselves to democracy and who are trying to reconcile their own principles, religious principles, references with the democratic rules, with the democratic principles and values. That's what's happening now. And this transitional phase, this transitional period now makes sometimes it's violent verbally, sometimes you have some groups who are fighting ideologically, who are fighting in the streets, fighting with also with demonstrations, one against another. It's going on now because they are trying to make this Islamic democracy come to reality now.
But if you take the example of Christian democracy in Western countries, those parties have become more secular by adapting to democracy. Do you see this also happening in the Arab world, or do you think it will be a different kind of a religious democracy, if I may use?
Actually, we have two major trends who are really competing for this Islamic democracy. The first one is going more secular. We see it in Tunisia, for example, with the Ennahda party, who is trying not to change the society totally, but having references, Islamic references, without accepting the modernity, accepting the democracy, and being more secular. And you have also, and we have it also in the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, for example, or in the Justice and Development Party in Morocco. But you have also another trend in this Islamist agenda or panorama, Islamist panorama, which is the Salafi trend, which does not accept the secular trend, does not accept the secular parts of democracy, and who wants it more to be a theocracy more than a democracy which is secular. So we have, it's going now, it's the play is now, and they are trying. Until now we have, however, we have this secular trend of Muslim Democrats who is winning. In Tunisia, they have more than 40% of the votes. In Egypt, they have more than 47% of the votes. So we have this dominant trend of Islamist ideology, which is winning now.
I want to get to Egypt, which is often referred to as the heart of the Arab world. There are supposed to be presidential elections. There are lots of controversy about some candidates, including the one from the Muslim Brotherhood, but also from the Salafi movement, that are barred. They're appealing, but from running. So is the former head of intelligence of the ousted Mubarak regime. Do you see this as a perfect illustration of those tensions running through the Arab world right now?
It's exactly what's happening in Egypt is exactly a picture of the tensions that are going in all the Arab world. I mean, with these competition between different trends of Islamists who each of them wants to put his president, his candidate with an agenda which is different, with a way which is a new vision and a view of society, of politics, of economy. What's happening there is actually the difference between all of them want Sharia, for example. All of them wants to apply Sharia, but the difference between them is when can we apply it and how can we apply it. So, for example, the Muslim Brotherhood think that we cannot apply it immediately, Sharia, to the society, because society is not ready to apply Sharia, whereas the Salafi movement thinks that we should apply it however the society, whatever the society is ready or not. And how to apply it? The Muslim Brotherhood think that we should apply it metaphorically. I mean, you should interpret some things that does not go with the modernity, such as cutting hands, for example, different things like that. Whereas the Salafi movement thinks we should apply it literally as it is written in the sacred books, especially in the Quran. So you have these competition and these tensions, and what's happening in Egypt is more giving examples of who can do what.
Okay, I want to turn a little bit southwards to a region that you know well. There have been recent troubles in the north of Mali. People see it as a consequence of the Western intervention in Libya with floods of weapons and militants. Mali is basically cut in two. There are lots of troubles in the institution and in the region, and there is the alleged role of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. How do you see the situation there unfolding?
What is sure is what's happening in Mali is the consequence of the Arab Spring, especially of the sub-consequence of the Libyan crisis, since the Libyan crisis is also one of the hearts of the Arab Spring. It came to a new government, a new regime in this country. And here again, in this country, which is not an Arab country, but Syrian Sahel, you have the consequence of the Arab Spring. And here again, you have what happened exactly is that the Islamist forces are becoming stronger, and there is a rise in the ideology and all these groups who are strengthened but what's happening around them in the countries in North Africa, in Egypt also. So they think they are the alternative to what's happening. They think they are legitimate now to rule the country. That's why the first thing they made when they entered, for example, the city of Timbuktu or the city of Gao in North Mali, they wanted to apply Sharia. That's their first revendication to say. So we have exactly the same thing which is going. And the new government of Mali will think a lot before going counter these Islamic forces, because they represent, for the people, they represent something different, something change. The change is from the side, on their side now. So it's very difficult to give them something different ideologically and politically.
Just very quickly, do you see this crisis spreading to neighboring countries like Niger, for instance, that are rather fragile and have the same kind of population division?
Actually, it's a domino. If it's not solved in Mali, it couldn't really be spread to all the other countries. Each time we had rebellion and insurgency in Mali, few months after, we had revolt or insurgency in Niger, in Mauritania. So this situation should be really taken seriously and should handled by all the countries, surrounding countries, and by the West.
Okay, Mathieu Guidère, thank you very much for talking to us through those big changes in the Arab world and even further south. Thank you for watching this edition of The Interview here on France 24. Stay tuned for more news.